I'm a trauma surgeon. I've spent 20 years making life or death decisions in seconds. I've held beating hearts in my hands. I've told families their loved ones didn't make it. I've worked 72-hour shifts without sleep, running on adrenaline and coffee, saving strangers while missing my own daughter's birthday parties. But nothing, absolutely nothing in my career prepared me for that Tuesday night in March when the ambulance doors burst open and I saw her face. My wife, Jenna, unconscious, covered in blood, and right behind her stretcher, another one carrying a 19-year-old kid whose heart was failing, both critical, both dying, and I was the only trauma surgeon on duty. They tell you in medical school about ethics and protocols. They give you scenarios in textbooks, they prepare you for impossible choices, but they never tell you what it feels like when the impossible becomes real. When the patient isn't a case number but the woman you've loved for 12 years, the mother of your child, the person who knows all your flaws and loves you anyway. I stood there in that hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of disinfectant mixing with blood, and I had to choose. 5 minutes. That's what my resident told me. Both patients needed immediate surgery. Both would die without intervention. The kid had been in a car accident, steering wheel crushed his chest, internal bleeding, vitals dropping fast. Jenna had been T-boned at an intersection 3 blocks from our house. She was coming home from her sister's place. Lily, our 9-year-old, was waiting at home with the babysitter, probably watching cartoons, completely unaware that her mother might not come home. I remember looking at Jenna's face, so pale, so still. There was a gash above her left eyebrow, the same eyebrow she always raised when I made a bad joke. Her wedding ring caught the light, that simple gold band we'd chosen together at a small jewelry shop in Portland during our honeymoon. 13 years ago. Another lifetime. My team was waiting. The OR was ready. Protocol demanded I recuse myself, let another surgeon handle Jenna's case. But there was no other surgeon. Budget cuts had left us understaffed. It was just me. The resident kept talking about triage protocols, about statistical survival rates, about doing the greatest good. The kid was young, whole life ahead of him. Jenna had sustained massive internal trauma, lower statistical chance of survival even with immediate intervention. The numbers made sense. The logic was sound. Every part of my training pointed toward saving the kid first. But she was my wife. I made the choice. I chose Jenna. I know what you're thinking. I know what the ethics board thought too. What my colleagues whispered in the hallways afterward. What the kid's parents screamed at me through their tears. I chose my wife over someone else's son, and he died because of it. They rushed him to County General 20 minutes away. He didn't make it. Died in the ambulance, his mother holding his hand, begging him to stay awake. Tyler Morrison, 19 years old, freshman at Portland State studying engineering. He'd just made the dean's list. I know because his father told me all of this when he found me in the hospital parking lot 2 weeks later. He didn't hit me. Part of me wished he had. He just looked at me with these hollow eyes and asked me one question. How do you live with yourself? I didn't have an answer then. I'm not sure I do now. But let me tell you what happened in that operating room. I worked on Jenna for 6 hours. Her spleen was ruptured, liver lacerated, internal bleeding that just wouldn't stop. My hands moved automatically. Years of training taking over while my mind screamed. Every suture, every clamp, every decision made with absolute precision because I couldn't afford to fail. Not her. Not Jenna. My team was incredible. Nobody questioned me. Nobody hesitated. We worked like a machine, synchronized and focused. Around hour 4, her pressure dropped dangerously low. I could see it happening, the monitors going crazy, the numbers falling. That's when something broke inside me. Not panic exactly. Something colder. The realization that I might lose her anyway. That I might have sacrificed that kid's life for nothing. That Lily might lose her mother regardless. That my choice might have been for nothing. But we kept going. I pushed harder. We transfused more blood. I repaired what seemed irreparable. And somehow, impossibly, her vitals stabilized. By dawn, she was alive. broken, traumatized, facing months of recovery, but alive. I walked out of that OR and collapsed against the wall in the hallway. One of the nurses, Janet, she'd been with me for 8 years. She brought me coffee and didn't say anything, just sat beside me while I stared at nothing. I couldn't go home, couldn't face Lily yet, couldn't figure out how to be her father when I'd just proven I was willing to let someone else's child die to save her mother. Jenna woke up 3 days later, confused, in pain, tubes everywhere. She didn't remember the accident, didn't know about Tyler Morrison, didn't know what I'd done. When she was strong enough, when she could talk without wincing, she asked me what happened. I told her everything, watched her face as the reality sank in, watched the woman I loved realize what her survival had cost. She cried for hours, not from pain or relief, but from guilt, the same guilt that was eating me alive from the inside. We didn't talk about it much after that initial conversation. What was there to say? Sorry didn't bring Tyler back. Justification didn't ease the weight. We just existed in this new reality we'd created, or that fate had created, or that my choice had created. I don't know anymore. The hospital review board launched an investigation. Standard procedure when a doctor treats a family member in an emergency. They interviewed everyone, reviewed every decision, analyzed every second of that night. In the end, they found me technically within protocol. There was no other surgeon available. I had made a judgment call under extreme circumstances. Reprimand placed in my file, mandatory counseling sessions, but no termination. Legally, I was clear. Morally, that's different. The Morrison family filed a wrongful death lawsuit. I didn't fight it. How could I? Their attorney painted me as exactly what I was, a man who chose personal interest over professional duty, who let bias cloud judgment, who played God and chose wrong. My lawyer argued necessity, impossible circumstances, acceptable standards of care. The case settled out of court. Money that meant nothing to anyone. Tyler's parents didn't want my money. They wanted their son back. They wanted me to feel what they felt. They wanted justice that didn't exist. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Richardson, quiet woman with an office full of plants and uncomfortable chairs. She asked me the questions I'd been avoiding. Would you make the same choice again? Do you believe you did the right thing? Can you forgive yourself? I couldn't answer her honestly for months. Still can't, really. Some days I think about the alternative. Choosing Tyler, saving him, letting Jenna die on that other table while I worked on a stranger. Coming home to Lily and explaining that Mommy was gone because Daddy followed the rules, because other people's children matter too, because statistics and protocols and ethics demanded it. I imagine Lily's face. 9 years old, trying to understand why her father let her mother die. Growing up without Jenna at her graduations, her wedding, the birth of her own children someday. I imagine myself living with that choice, that version of grief, that particular brand of what if. And honestly, I don't know if I could survive it. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe that makes me human. Maybe there's no difference. Jenna went through extensive physical therapy. The injuries healed slowly. Her body recovered faster than her spirit. She became quieter, more withdrawn. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at nothing, and I knew she was thinking about Tyler, about the life she had because he didn't, about the randomness and cruelty of it all. Lily knows now. Not everything, but enough. She's 14 now, old enough to understand complexity, old enough to process difficult truths. We told her last year, during one of those family conversations, that changes everything. She listened quietly, asked a few questions, then hugged us both and said she was glad her mom was alive. Simple as that, in the way only children can be simple about complicated things. But I see it in her eyes sometimes. The awareness, the understanding that her family exists because another family was destroyed. She's careful around us now, gentle, as if we might break. Maybe we already did. I still practice medicine, still work in trauma. Some people think I shouldn't, that I lost the right to make these decisions. Maybe they're correct. But I keep showing up, keep saving lives when I can, keep facing those impossible moments when seconds matter and choices have consequences that ripple forward forever. I'm more careful now, more aware of my biases, my limitations, my humanity. I recuse myself faster. I ask for help more often. I don't trust myself the way I used to, and maybe that's appropriate. Maybe doubt is the price of what I did, the tax I pay for Jenna's heartbeat. Last month I met Tyler's mother at a grocery store. Pure chance, random encounter in the produce section. We recognized each other immediately. She froze, then turned and walked away. I didn't follow. What could I possibly say? But as I watched her leave, this middle-aged woman buying vegetables alone, I thought about all the ordinary moments Tyler would never have, all the grocery runs and traffic jams and boring Tuesdays that make up a life. I took those from him. I don't sleep well anymore. Jenna knows, but we don't discuss it. 3-4 hours a night, maybe. I lie awake replaying that night, that choice, those 5 minutes that defined everything after. I run through different scenarios, different versions where everyone lives, where the math works out differently, where I'm somehow better, faster, capable of miracles. But that's not reality. Reality is messy and cruel and forces impossible choices on ordinary people. Reality is living with consequences that have no resolution, no redemption arc, no neat ending. So how do I live with myself? Tyler's father asked me that, and here's the answer I've found. I don't. Not really. I exist. I function. I love my wife and daughter. I save the patients I can. I carry Tyler's memory with me every single day, every single surgery, every single choice. He's there in the operating room, in the quiet moments, in the mirror. I will never forgive myself, and maybe that's appropriate. Maybe that's the only honest response to what I did. Maybe some choices don't deserve forgiveness, only acknowledgement. I chose love over duty, family over fairness, my heart over my oath. I saved my wife and let someone else's son die. That's the truth. That's my story, and I'll carry it until the day I die. This weight that never lightens, this question that has no answer, this life I have because another one ended. I'm a trauma surgeon. I make impossible choices. But that night, I wasn't a surgeon. I was just a husband who couldn't let go, and Tyler Morrison paid the price.